as promised, we will begin a series tonight on the gradual training. And people that come to Buddhism, hopefully you hear the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. These are just the basics of the Buddhist teachings, and believe it or not, all-encompassing. If that's all you know all you need to know. The gradual training is something that appears in the suttas. For example, in the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, at least a third of the suttas describe this, the gradual training. In the long discourses of the Buddha, it's over half of the suttas describe this, the gradual training. So this is throughout the suttas. It's also speckled throughout the numerical discourses as well, and the connected discourses. And what the gradual training is the Eightfold Noble Path, what it looks like when it's lived out in a human life. There's this shorthand for the Eightfold Noble Path. I'll say it in Pali, and you'll hear it hopefully lots and lots. It's Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And Sila is morality, Samadhi is stillness, or the mind collected and stable, and Panya is wisdom. And these are the three trainings that the Buddha lays out. And they're in the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path does something that many of the Buddhist teachings do. It does this recursive thing. So it begins with the Panya part, the wisdom part. Right view and right intention. And initially they're weak, but they're enough to get you onto a spiritual path. And then as you develop the rest of the path, which is the Sila part, the morality part, that's the middle chunk of the Eightfold Noble Path, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and then the Samadhi part, the right stillness, the right meditation, really, you could say. And that's the last three parts of the Eightfold Noble Path, which is right effort and right mindfulness and right Samadhi. So tonight, with the gradual training, we'll start at the beginning. What a good idea. With the right wisdom. And that is the beginning of the gradual training. It's the beginning of one embarking on a spiritual path. And what this looks like in the gradual training is the beginning of the gradual training is always that there has been a Buddha, an awakened, a self-awakened one, arise in civilization, arise in the world. So we're in the dispensation of Gautama Buddha, but there have been many Buddhas before, and there will be more Buddhas after. The sciences corroborating, corroborating many things that the Buddha said 2,500 years ago, and the Buddha definitely has talked about the universe expanding and collapsing. That these world systems arise and then they collapse. They arise and they fall apart. And so we live in a time when there has been a Buddha that has arisen. There are times when there isn't a Buddha that has arisen. And interestingly, I'll just read a sutta from the numerical discourses. Interestingly, the Buddha is very clear that the teachings that he's laying out for us, the teachings that he discovered, he didn't invent them. He didn't create them. He discovered them. And in this sutta, it talks about whether there's a Buddha or not. These teachings are there, but they're not understood and they're not being made known. It's a short sutta, but it has an important message. Monks, or we'll just say meditators so that it can land more personally. Meditators, whether Buddhas arise or not, there persists that law, that stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. And this is what it is. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent. A Buddha awakens to this, breaks through to it, and then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it thus. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Meditators, whether Buddhas arise or not, there persists that law, that stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All conditioned phenomena are suffering. A Buddha awakens to this and breaks through to it, and then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it thus. All conditioned phenomena are suffering. Bhikkhus, whether Buddhas arise or not, there persists that law, that stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All phenomena are non-self. A Buddha awakens to this and breaks through to it, and then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it thus. All phenomena are non-self. And this is in the Anguttara, in the Book of Threes, Sutta 136, called Arising. So these three characteristics of everything in existence, that it's impermanent, and that it's inherently got suffering in it, and that it's coreless. It's a non-self. There's no permanent, stable. Everything is in flux. Everything, including our bodies and our minds. And so it's amazing. I mean, this is just reality. And then when the great good fortune happens that all these things come together and there's a being that on their own discovers these truths, figures it out, and is able to teach it, that's when you have a Buddha that arises. So the gradual training begins with there being a Buddha. And it again points to that everything is codependent, everything is co-arising. And there's no spiritual path without a Buddha having arisen. And so that part we've got down, because there is a Buddha. And the next part of the gradual training is that we come in contact with those teachings. We come in contact with those wisdom teachings. That somehow things happen in our lives. A book lands in our hands, or a conversation happens, or we meet somebody, or just a yearning, a longing, a questioning arises on our own, inside of us. And then we come in contact with the Buddha's teachings. This is the next part of the gradual training, that we have this incredible good fortune to hear the teachings, and that there's some kind of resonance, some kind of a response in our hearts. It lands in our hearts. There's a verse in the Dhammapada, verse 182. Hard is it to be born a human being. Hard is the life of mortals. Hard is it to gain the opportunity to hear the good Dhamma. And hard indeed to encounter the arising of the Buddhas. And I mean, there's so many scriptures I could read, just how blessed it is, how fortunate it is, how rare it is that there is a Buddha that has arisen and that we are hearing the Buddha's teachings. This is, the Buddha goes on and on and on explaining what good fortune this is. There's a sutta in the numerical discourses where there's it's in the book of Eights, and it's Sutta 29 and Gutra Nikaya 829, and it's just saying that the Buddha is giving this teaching to the meditators that were alive at his time about inopportune moments, and there's a lot of them. There's 8, and these are the instances where not everything has come together, and you don't actually have the opportunity to hear the Buddha's teachings. So of the 8, the first one is that you've been reborn in a lower realm of some sort. And number 2, you've been reborn in a ghost realm. Number 3, you've been reborn in an animal realm. When the Buddha arises, and you don't have the opportunity to hear his teachings. And the 4th one is amazing. You've been reborn in a realm where it's long-lived devas. And so what happens is you're reborn in this realm, and your life as this long-lived deva begins, and it goes on for so long, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, that the Buddha arises and all the teachings happen and people practice, and then it dies out, and you're still up there in this long tape of life. And the Buddha says that's actually an inopportune moment. And then he goes on to describe people with human lives and there is a Buddha, but they don't come in contact with the teaching, or they don't have the inclination for the teachings to land anywhere. And I'll just read. He ends this teaching with some verses, and I'll just read a little bit of them. And the Buddha is saying, having obtained the human state, when the good Dhamma has been well proclaimed, those who do not seize the moment have let the moment slip by. For many inopportune times are spoken of, all the ones that he's just outlined, occasions obstructive to the path. For it is only sometimes, on occasion, that Buddhas arise in the world. If one has directly encountered them, fortune rarely gained in the world. If one has obtained the human state and the good Dhamma is being taught, for a person desiring his own good, this is incentive enough to strive. So it really brings us to the 3rd part of the gradual training. The beginning of the Eightfold Noble Path, the right view and right intention. So the 3rd part of the gradual training is that we begin a spiritual practice, and we start to make some intentions and some commitments to develop our spiritual life. This is the third part. So the first part of the gradual training, there's a Buddha that has arisen. The second part is that somehow there's been some kind of contact with the teachings. And then the third is that there's a heart's response and a commitment. And that's what I want to talk about for the rest of the time tonight. Just wherever you're at in your spiritual practice, that something, that the Buddha has said lands tonight, that you realize, whoa, this is actually important and rare. And I don't want to let it slip by. I don't want to miss the opportunity. And so, whatever your spiritual practice looks like right now, I want to so encourage everyone to bump it up, to increase it a little bit, and I want to flesh that out. There are many aspects to our spiritual practice. There's a learning component, learning the teachings. There's a devotion component. And there's a formal meditation practice component. There's a morality component and a guarding of the mind and continuity of awareness and mindfulness practice throughout the day. So I'd like to talk about, and there's also renunciation. There's, an opportunity to start to look more carefully at what are our real needs, what are our real wants, and sometimes scale back on some of those wants. Realize that this is actually complicating my life and complicating my relationships. To have the opportunity to start to ask yourself some of those questions and look at some of those things, and make some more space in your living space, in your mind, in your heart, in your schedule, in your life, to simplify. This is a beautiful practice and beautiful strong advice from the Buddha. Many of our, probably all of our problems are from our craving. And this is why we're in the predicament that we're in as a globe. It's from craving. This is why we're consuming the earth's resources. And so it's wonderful to start to see the difficulties, the complications, the fraughtness of our craving, and start to learn ways to be content, and the craving will ease off, and it's a wonderful experience. There's many times in the scriptures it talks about the bliss of renunciation. So, practically with learning, if that's of interest, learning, a great book is by monk Bhikkhu Bodhi, and Bhikkhu Bodhi is the monk that's translated all of these from Pali. But the way I began to read the suttas was with this compilation that he put together, and it's called In the Buddha's Words, and it's only about this thick, and it's really wonderful because the suttas can be a bit overwhelming, and you can kind of feel lost. And In the Buddha's Words by Bhikkhu Bodhi, what he does is he's organize them thematically and sort of taking you through the basic teachings of the Buddha. And there's lots and lots of like introductory notes from Bhikkhu Bodhi. And I looked online, and you can get it at like thrift books online for $15. And if you're at all inclined to step into the suttas, this is a great way to do it, in the Buddha's words by Bhikkhu Bodhi. And it's not boring, and it's not overwhelming. It's interesting and wonderful. Yeah. You know, there's several times, like over 20 times in the suttas, it has phrases like, one that's learned much, remembers what they've learned, and accumulates what they've learned. Learned much of, retained in mind, recited verbally, mentally investigated, and penetrated well by view. The Buddha is very much encouraging us to learn his teachings, to listen to his teachings, and to learn his teachings. It's the beginning. And it really does, you know, it expands what you know, and it expands how you think about things and how you look at things. He's just such a wise teacher. Yeah. So in terms of devotion, you know, in different aspects of the practice are going to be more juicy, more meaningful for different people. You don't need to do all of it. You do what is really speaking to your heart. And devotion is a lovely thing. You could get a Buddha rupa, a Buddha statue, or get a picture of the Buddha that it speaks to you. You know, you can, or you could have something from nature that is calming for you and uplifting for your heart, and have a shrine, and you could just have something from nature there. The Buddha himself bowed down to the tree that he was enlightened under, and every Buddha is always enlightened under a tree, a different kind of tree. Nature is very, very powerful, and it's full of Dhamma, and it's often for people it does lead to things being more simple, more clear, more grounded. So it could be something from nature that you have on a table, on a shrine. You could explore bowing. It's wonderful to have a place in your space that is, you know, where you meditate. Like, don't just, if it's possible. I mean, some people are living in 400 square foot, you know, whatever. But if it's possible, it's very, very lovely and very good for the heart to have a designated place where you meditate. And it's also can be very supportive for your meditation practice to have it be at a similar time in the day. This is my meditation time. You know, we pull this off somehow. We pull this off for breakfast, pull it off for lunch, pull it off for dinner. We can pull it off for meditation, you know, just to have, for me, I went to my first meditation retreat. I didn't know it was Buddhist, and I had very difficult, a very, very difficult past with religion, and I wouldn't have gone to this thing if I'd known it was Buddhist. Anyway, so I go to this thing, a weekend, and my first meditation retreat, and I come home and my partner's there, and I said, yeah, it was amazing. I'm going to start meditating every day. He said something about faith, and I bit his head off. Like, got nothing to do with faith. just the right thing to do. It's a good thing to, like brushing my teeth. For me, it was like brushing my teeth. Because just the whole religion, faith, so, you know, we're all coming from different places. But it was clear to me, meditation was like brushing my teeth or having breakfast. It became a non-negotiable. Like, this is just something I do because it's like imperative. Yeah, so whatever you're doing right now in your meditation practice, if it's not daily, be moving towards trying to sit daily, even if it's for 10 minutes. But this is a great start. This is a great start, 10 minutes a day, and then go to 12, and then go to 15. This is very, very good. And it is like brushing your teeth. It's like...
Routine.
Pardon?
It's like routine.
Routine, yes.
Can I ask you which age did you start?
I was almost 47.
Okay.
Yeah. Late to the
I
party.
don't think so.
But anyway, it's not too late.
Yeah.
There is a woman that came to the monastery that I was at before this one, and she started when she was 79, and she was like super serious, and she died when she was 89, and she was like way on the path. She was almost 80 when she came in contact with the Dhamma, but she really valued it. You know, when you wait that long and you come into contact with it later, you realize, you know, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Just some other ideas of like bumping up our practice, daily mindfulness. The more that we can be mindful, the more that we can be aware, not lost in thought, not just the mind just going higgly-piggly, the better. And then if you are making efforts to be more present, more mindful continuously through the day, or even to start having some touch points, then when you do sit down to meditate, it's just so much more enjoyable. It's not as hard work. Your meditation practice is very much like a relationship. And so you want to be, you're developing this relationship with your meditation object, be it the breath, or be it the body, or be it metta. And so you want to not be too far away from this good friend. You want to try and stay close throughout the day, so that then when you sit down and meditate, the mind doesn't have as much clutter and as much to clear out. So I've said this so many times, but for me, when I was living a lay life and still working a full-time job, I sort of trained my mind to have these mindfulness bells, just these things that when I did that physical act, it just was like an immediate wake up, like, oh yeah, be with my breath. And it worked. So for me, it was like opening a door. So every time I opened a door, because this was random, you know, and it just worked. I just sort of programmed, okay, when I'd start to reach out and then for the doorknob, and then I'd kind of wake up and realize how lost in thought I was. That was very, very helpful. The other one was, there were 3, flushing the toilet, and again, just because it was random. And you can pick anything, you know, answering your phone, or going upstairs, things that you just do intermittently in the day. Getting in your car, you know, just, okay, when I get in the car, before I start the thing up, I'll just be with 3 breaths. I'll just stop. it's lovely, you know, it really changes things. So this is another way that we can bump up our practice. And I think that's all I wanted to share. So there's still time for people to ask questions, make comments. Or you can make protests, anything. Anything is welcome.
This is just a little comment. When I started coming here to Sangamita's group, I came for meditation, not for a faith or religion. And I think I was for 2 years before something got me, or I got it, and started my real practice. After many stumblings along before this monastery, but it just happened and finally connected. Not that I know all the words obviously or understand everything, but it gave the meaning. Just happened one day here, and it just is transforming. Which doesn't mean I don't have a lot of bad days, but yeah, it's beautiful to have something that in your life like that kind of faith.
Laurent.
Yes, hello. I was wondering, last week you said that in your meditation, the breath was not your favorite subject or not your favorite meditation. And then you said that you would talk about this a little, and it's been intriguing me all week. So I was wondering if you could talk about that a little.
Yeah, I have had lots of different physical energies in the body, so it's much better for me to have the body as my meditation object.
So, but how do you proceed with that is what I would like to understand. Like when you say you're meditating with your body, how do you meditate with your body?
There are different ways to take the body as meditation.
Please.
And the breath actually is one of the body meditations. But another one that is the one that I've been doing is called 4 elements meditation. So you learn to perceive characteristics of the earth element, which is solidity, and hard and soft, and rough and smooth, and light and heavy. And you learn to feel those, sense those throughout the body. And then the next element that you learn how to feel that, the characteristics of that element in the body, is the water element, which is flowing and cohesion. And you start to feel, you can actually feel your blood flowing, and you can start to feel your heart pumping, and cohesion. You start to feel things that are sort of lumped together in the body. And then the fire element, very, very easy, hot and cold. And the air element, which is the characteristic of movement, of pushing, and of resistance. And you start to feel those. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm gonna have to look it up for more detail on the actual meditation.
Yeah.
Because,
There are 2 short videos by my meditation teacher, Beth Upton, and she explains the 4 elements meditation.
Beth, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And on YouTube. Beth
Yeah,
Upton
and what's
on YouTube.
okay? Thank you very much.
Certainly.
I have a question, Ayya. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, totally.
Um, when you're like at work during the day and you're in your work, enjoying it and in a flow state, is that considered mindful, or is that you distracting yourself with something?
No, I think especially if you know that if you're aware that you are feeling content and happy, it's because Jocelyn, you'd be feeling content and happy because you don't have aversion, you don't have resistance, and that you're in flow. No, this is when you're noticing it and knowing that that's what's going on, that is mindful. Yeah, definitely. And it's really important to notice when coarse aversion is not there, and to feel how good that feels, because then it entices the mind to move away from aversion.
So if you've kind of been in this state of flow and you don't even realize 2-3 hours go by, that is not true presence or
Right,
mindfulness.
right.
Okay.
That's then you kind of got absorbed in your, it's like watching a movie.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get kind
That
of
makes
lost.
sense. Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But if you're at work and you're content and you're in flow and there's just a lot of wholesomeness in the mind, a lot of positivity. It's very wholesome, and it's the chant that we chanted. The what is the source of true happiness? This is one source of true happiness, of having work that is wholesome, that's meaningful, that's of service, that's engaging for you. This is a huge blessing in a person's life. Yeah. Very, very wholesome. It is a factor on the path, right livelihood. It's one of the 8 factors, It's important. Yeah. And then we end up on virtuous cycles, when we're realizing, oh, I have work that I enjoy, and that I'm able to contribute to my family, I'm able to contribute to society. This is very, very wholesome. And to be remembering that and noticing that is also wholesome,
So long as that you can keep a balance where the other parts stay wholesome as well.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And you can notice that at work when, it's like you're doing something and you're trying to do your best, and then there's that little part of you like, oh, and I'm sure that people will notice, blah blah blah, and then you're wanting praise, and those things. It's very helpful if we don't beat ourselves up when those arise and don't get paralyzed. Just be like, oh, silly, oh, there I go again, notice it and let it go. Because you know what, that's first of all, there's a chance I don't get praised, and then I get resentful, and blah blah blah. It's just problematic. Yeah. But you'll start to notice that the more mindful you are, that the mind is just, it's wholesome, unwholesome, wholesome, unwholesome. Like it just,
Yes.
the unwholesome is like there on the, and so what we're doing is you put more attention on the wholesome, and and it kind of expands, and the unwholesome starts to diminish. You start trying to not feed it as much.
I appreciate that more than a positive and a negative language.
Yeah,
It's different, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it really is, and it's descriptive. You know, it's not bad. It's unbeneficial. Is what it is. It's like problematic. Yeah. No protests. Everyone's going to bump up their practice. I'm so encouraged.
We'll report back next week.
Great. Yeah. I will end. Sorry, I'll end with just. I did want to say, gradual training. Like it's such a great name, because both those words are really, really important. The gradual part, I forgot to read a sutta where the Buddha talks about it, and it's throughout the suttas. It's gradual, and it's just like something that slants, inclines, and slopes towards the ocean. You know, this is a gradual training that slants and slopes and inclines towards more and more freedom, and more and more spaciousness, more and more wholesome. And then the second word, training. It is a training. And there's a great description of how much it's a training. The Buddha gives this description. Suppose a clever horse trainer obtains a fine thoroughbred colt. He first makes him, the colt, get used to wearing the bit. While the colt is being made to get used to wearing the bit, because he's doing something that he's never done before, he displays some contortion, writhing, and vacillation. Even though we didn't get any tonight, maybe it was going on internally, but through constant repetition and gradual practice, the colt becomes peaceful in wearing the bit. When the colt has become peaceful in that action, the horse trainer further makes him get used to wearing the harness. While the colt is being made to get used to wearing the harness, because he's doing something that he's never done before, he displays some contortion, writhing, and vacillation. But through constant repetition and gradual practice, he becomes peaceful in that action. And it goes on and on and on, right? Once he gets used to something, then the training continues. And he has something else to take up, and something else to get used to. And that there's, some writhing, some contortion, some vacillation. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Right? And it's the most worthwhile thing you can do with human life. Train your own mind. The Dhammapada verse, neither mother nor father nor any other relative can do for one as much good as one's own well-directed mind. So, three. We are. We're not going to do that. Sorry.
Compassion.
Oh, compassion? Can we do that? We can do that.
Okay, we'll end with the Brahma Vihara of compassion, Karuna. So bring to mind somebody you know with great physical or mental suffering, and while being aware of their particular difficulties, direct these compassionate phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. may you find peace. And now we'll send the phrases to ourselves. May I be free of pain and sorrow. May I find peace. Now bring to mind someone who's been very supportive of you and send the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now bring to mind a neutral person, someone you don't have strong feelings of like or dislike towards, and send the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. And now think of someone who's difficult, you have a difficult relationship with, and send the phrases to them. May you too be free of your pain and sorrow. May you too find peace. May all beings be free of pain and sorrow. May all beings find peace. Remember that all beings face great potential suffering, no matter how fortunate their immediate circumstances may be. This meditation does not eliminate suffering. What we are doing is being able to acknowledge suffering, to open to it and respond to it with a tenderness of heart, which allows us to join with all beings and realize we are never alone. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Therese, Lise, Blair,
Rose,
Anne, Lynn,
Joe,
Tracy.
Lisa.
May all beings be well and happy.